Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports. Coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old buds down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France, of course. You good old boys in Canada, you know we love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful March the 27th, 2019. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, we're officially a day away from spring. Tomorrow is the official opening of Major League Baseball. It's also the official opening of the Sweet 16 and the men's tournament in the NCAA, Charlton.
Wow.
And also some new rulings from the NFL.
Well, there's always new rulings. It's all fair in love and war. There's so much to talk about. California is beautiful. And I know they're still having some issues with thunderstorms and rain and flooding in the Midwest. Again, thoughts and prayers are with you. Hopefully you can use a little sports from Big C Sports to open up your mind. Also asking everyone to download the app for Big C Sports. You can follow us all around the world. And I know football, there's always talk of football, where there's rule changes, Big C. As you talked about Major League Baseball, it's really the right time of year for baseball to start. We're going to get into the playoffs with the NBA coming up in about another couple of weeks, and we know March Madness is in full swing. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. Big C, I know that there's so much going on in the world of sports, and we talk about Title IX. We talk about equal opportunity. I know you're a big proponent of making sure that people have opportunity no matter, what their physical limitations are. But Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, is under deep scrutiny. I mean, she's planning on cutting off all federal funding for Special Olympics. And I just want to get your thoughts on, does she have a heart, Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, this is the biggest abomination that I've seen thus far come out of this current administration. When you're talking about cutting off federal funding, Charlton, to Special Olympics, I've had family members with special needs. I have a son who's ADHD, Charlton. And when I hear this callousness, Charlton, coming from the administration, saying that people with special needs are American citizens born here, that parents pay taxes, are not entitled, Charlton, to government benefits, Charlton.
Wow.
And you think about how much this government funds. So what is she going to do? Take the funds, Charlton, that goes from the Special Olympics and go build a border wall, Charlton? Wow. Is that where those funds are going to go to? And you think about it, Charlton. The Special Olympics in this country, Charlton, was started by Eunice Shriver.
Yeah.
The mother of the former First Lady there of California, Maria Shriver.
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger. The Kennedy family, which has deep ties in politics, Charlton, helped the federal government start funding the Special Olympics.
Yeah.
And you think about how big the Special Olympics has come, Charlton, worldwide. I mean, think about if Prince Harry of England, Charlton, said, we're going to cut off the UK's funding of the Special Olympics. I mean, he's an ambassador for the Special Olympics, Charlton, as with many other world leaders. But this shows the insensitivity, the dehumanization, Charlton, of people by our Secretary of Education. And these people, Charlton, that are involved in the Special Olympics, all they want to do is be accepted as people, Charlton. To be able to do the things that everybody else does. Charlton, everybody that listens to our broadcast knows somebody who's affected by a special needs person in their family. But they include them, Charlton, as family. They don't take them and lock them off in a closet. They don't go on vacation and leave them behind, Charlton. They don't sit down at dinner and put them in the kitchen while they're sitting at the dinner table, Charlton.
No.
They're included in everything: dinner, breakfast, lunch, Christmas, Thanksgiving, vacations, Charlton. But for our Secretary of Education of the United States to say that these people are subhuman, Charlton, because they have special needs, and they don't need federal funding, Charlton, to assist them in being part of American society.
Well, I think it's fun for everyone to get into, and there are a lot of kids go to the playground, and there are a lot of playgrounds and parks in California, and I'm sure all over the country, but you'll see people playing, and you'll see them with different genders, different ethnic groups. Some may have some physical handicap, but they still play together. And there's a very poignant TV commercial. It's a sports commercial. There's a football team. I know they were in green jerseys and a green helmet, and I think they had some black pants on, and they let the kid that has some special needs catch the football, and the team that was opposing them, they agreed not to tackle this kid. Now, it was just a TV commercial, but they showed what happened when people can pull together, and they recognize when someone may have a physical handicap, it doesn't make them any less human. It just means they have something to overcome. I don't know what Betsy DeVos is thinking, and maybe she's showing her own, handicap when it comes to mental acuity. Because your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, think about a commercial that everybody in America sees all the time. It's from St. Jude's Children's Hospital.
Oh, yeah.
For special need children, where St. Jude does not put out a bill to any family member, Charlton.
No.
They take care of the children at no cost.
Yeah.
And even though it's done a lot through donations, Charlton, and government funding, but think about if St. Jude's turned their back on the special need children that came there, Charlton.
Yeah.
And said, we're no longer going to care for you because we feel you should go out and be able to bring in the funds on your own to take care of your needs.
Yeah.
Think about that, from a human factor, Charlton.
Yep.
This is where our administration has completely gone awry.
Yeah.
And I can guarantee you, Charlton, that the base of this administration, that they can't look around and say, we don't have special needs people in our families, Charlton.
I know.
That we know personally.
Yeah.
But to sit here and have our Secretary of Education saying that special needs children do not need activities and be supported by our federal government, Charlton. Think about what the men's national hockey team gets funding for, Charlton, from the federal government.
Yep.
It's more than the Special Olympics.
Yeah.
And they haven't won a gold medal ever in anything, Charlton.
Yeah.
They've never won an Olympic gold. They've never even medaled in the Olympics.
Yeah.
But they're talking about funding our men's Olympic, our men's national soccer team that can't win a medal.
Yeah.
And yet these kids who need it the most, kids and adults, Charlton, who need it the most, who are the most vibrant of people in our society.
Yes.
And they don't let their handicaps, Charlton, hold them back. They want to be included in everything, Charlton.
Yep.
And yet we have our federal government talking about turning up their backs on them right now.
Yeah, I think that's crazy. Sometimes working at the gym, you'll see people who were actually walking around with a missing limb and a prosthetic leg and sometimes a prosthetic arm, and just saying hi and where you just ask them, were you ever in military service? And some say no. They were just injured in some other capacity, but many have been.
Well, think about, Charlton, how many military people perform in the Special Olympics. Military veterans who have lost limbs, who have been injured in battle.
Yep.
They're participants in the Special Olympics.
Yeah.
And so we have our administration talking about not just turning their backs on people that were born with medical afflictions, Charlton, but people who have lost limbs and body functions, Charlton, because of serving in the military.
Wow.
And here it is, the Secretary of Education, the buffoonery of her, Charlton, to say that these people do not deserve federal funding.
Yep. It's crazy, and that's why we got to vote, and everybody has the right to have an opinion. I just wonder how Betsy DeVos would address the Special Olympics and tell them that they're not needed. I want to, I was talking to...
Well, how would she address the military personnel, Charlton, our veterans that have fought in foreign wars and lost limbs, Charlton, lost eyesight, and other things? I remember watching a veteran last Special Olympics, Charlton. He had lost both legs, and he was in the bench press competition.
Yeah.
And so how would she walk up to him and say, look, you can get by without your legs, and you can get by without the funding for the Special Olympics.
Yeah.
Those who have lost arms, Charlton, those who have lost eyes, those who have lost the ability to speak, Charlton, who've had severe burns.
Yeah.
From military, action.
Yeah.
How would Betsy DeVos walk into the Walter Reed Hospital in D.C., in Virginia, wherever it is, and tell those veterans who are hoping to get into the Special Olympics, Charlton, to get some assimilation of life again, Charlton, saying we're not going to fund you anymore. You've lost this in service of your country, but we don't feel we owe you anything anymore.
Well, remember, Big C, one of the greatest movies, I guess, in American iconic movies called The Wizard of Oz. and they were all trying to follow the yellow brick road, and one of them was looking for a heart, and maybe Betsy DeVos will re-examine her heart, and maybe someone will come, talk some sense to her. I want to bring up something else in the world of sports, Big C, and I was talking to some business partners today, and as we had finished having a meeting about the mortgage industry, we were just talking about what men do, and I'm not being flippant on this. I know that oftentimes I'll meet people from all over the country, and we'll get together and discuss banking and how banking is going to go forward. Well, there was a gentleman, Robert Kraft, that we all know of, and he had that situation down in Florida. Now, when I talked about the Kraft situation, because we were talking sports, politics, and banking, well, Kraft, through his attorney, he's officially entered a plea of not guilty in Jupiter, Florida, for the 2 counts of solicitation of prostitution in a massage parlor and asking for a jury trial. Now, would you believe, and I know that you aren't going to understand what I understand, these men said, well, there's nothing new about that. Because in reality, Big C, it's something that people, they do, especially when they go out of town. Robert Kraft was caught in Florida, not up in Massachusetts. I'm sure the man lives wherever he wants to live. But his profile matches the profile of many men who say, yeah, well, what's the big deal, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, they say, what's the big deal? But what if it was someone that they knew in their family, Charlton? What if it was a daughter, a niece, a cousin that were in prison in one of these sex slave parlors, Charlton, down in Jupiter, Florida?
Yeah.
How would they feel if it was a family member of theirs that was forced into this indentured line of work, Charlton?
Yeah.
And they said, well, this is what men do. Yes, it is what men do, Charlton. It's what a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But does it make it right? I mean, you got a 28-year-old girlfriend and you're not satisfied with your 28-year-old girlfriend.
Yeah.
So you have to go to a massage parlor on back-to-back days. So I guess he's telling her she's nobody.
Well,
everybody's going to cover for the rich guy in this scenario. And I look at Robert Kraft asking for a jury trial.
Yeah.
Because Charlton, in Jupiter, Florida, he's not going to find anybody down there who's against him, okay?
No.
He's in a rich, wealthy area.
Yeah.
There's more millionaires per capita in Jupiter, Florida than any other city in Florida, Charlton.
Yeah, and
so he's most likely going to get people who know him, who know of him. And I think what he did, Charlton, was he saw this thing with the Jesse Smollett in Chicago, where they dropped all the charges, because it was basically tried in the media before they ever even got to court, Charlton.
Yeah.
Everybody, the police chief, the mayor, and everybody else had given their judgment on the case.
Yep.
Without having a jury picked. And so that's what's happening with Robert Kraft. He's going to play hardball with the prosecutor, Charlton, up until the end, when they're going to say, okay, we struck a deal.
Yeah.
We're going to do a couple hours of community service. He's going to pay a little fine of restitution, and it's over with. We're going to drop the case and have it sealed. That's what's going to happen with Robert Kraft.
Well, you'd be surprised, or maybe not surprised, but when I brought up that same question that you just brought up, there were so many people. I mean, being around banking the last couple of days, it's mostly an older white man business, and they'll have mostly young white women in the business. They'll have some people of color that happen to be, mostly Asian. You can count the number of African Americans on your hand. And I heard the owner of one of the largest mortgage companies in the United States said, this business is too old and white. This white man said it. It's too old and white, and we need to add more color and women. He said more diversity and more women to the industry. And people kind of laughed, and they laughed because they've been told in the past they don't want more people of color and women in the industry. That's why I brought a laugh when he said we need more diversity in 2019. But would you believe and there's a conversation I had, I won't go into anybody's names, but a lot of these men, they travel in from all over the country. There are two things they want to do when they come out to California. They want to go find what's legally, been legalized lately in some type of marijuana, where there's, whatever form they get it. That's what they're looking for. These are white men in suits and $1,000 suits flying around at company expense. They're looking for weed, and they're also knowing where can they get some women. Now, these are people who are writing our banking loans, Big C. I'm not saying that people can't do what they want to do, but I'm not surprised when people defend Robert Kraft, because that's what those men are like. Your thoughts?
Charlton, is what the history of it always has been, corporate America. When you travel, they use the slogans, what goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas. It's what goes on away from your house stays outside your house.
Yeah.
That's always been the mantra, Charlton, in America.
Yeah.
Corporate America's always traveled. Corporate America's always looked for outside activity away from the home.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's professional athletes, whether it's corporate America, Charlton, it's always been there.
Yeah.
And so for these guys to say that, they say it behind closed doors. They don't say it at home.
They do it. They're the ones doing it.
They don't say it in front of their wives,
yeah.
Charlton.
Well,
they're not doing that, but they say it around the guys who are doing the same thing that they're doing. That's the reason why they feel comfortable in saying it. It's just like the old adage in corporate America, Charlton.
Yeah.
They would say, how does a racist joke start?
Yeah.
You look to the left, you look to the right, and if you don't see one, that's the butt of the joke.
Well, ironically, I haven't heard one recently around me, but I know the new person that's the eye of the ethnic joke now happens to be, Mexican Americans. And I just ask them, where did they come from? Everybody came from someplace, and there's no wall to keep out white people. But I want to touch on this thing one more time because it's not even eye-opening to me. And the thing about Bob Kraft, compared to R. Kelly, I'm not defending either man, but they both have similar, indictments. But when I hear, and again, most of these mortgage bankers are white men, and they have families, they have daughters in college. But when they say there's no big deal what Kraft did, that's because they're asking where can they get some of the same action. And it's not shocking. So why, if I know that as a black American man, why does the media, which is mostly white, why do they feel like they should be appalled when they know if I'm let in on the secret, they have to grow up knowing the secret? Big, so your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, are you going to walk in and tell your trade secrets when you're the CEO of the company?
Probably not.
What made you big?
Yeah.
No, you're not, Charlton. Yeah. You think that, iPhone is going to walk out and give all their trade secrets to the camera on their phone?
Yeah.
No, they're not, Charlton.
Right.
So it's just like when corporate America travels around, Charlton. They have an expense account.
Yeah.
You don't even always have to bring back a receipt.
No.
You just, you have X amount of dollars to spend.
Yeah.
We don't always want to know what you spend that money on.
Yep.
Just enjoy yourself. Just come back and bring us some new business. That's all they say.
Well, you brought it to me now. You're down south. I don't know how you know everything about everybody, but the commissioner for the Pac-12, when they had the Pac-12 basketball tournament, they were down in Las Vegas, I believe. And I believe the gentleman booked a room or a suite that was $7,500 a night. And I know he was there for more than one night because the Pac-12 tournament lasted more than one night. Now, when you hear about, he meets the profile of these men who are like Bob Kraft. They get away from home, and they do whatever they want to do. The reason I say it, I'm not saying anybody's name. I'm just saying that's what I see. And why, even on the Mothership and other mainstream outlets, why there's such a pacifying excuse made for Bob Kraft. Oh, he's old, or maybe he needed love, and he was dealing with some issues of winning so many championships. A lot of pressure when you win that many Super Bowls. They all made fun about it because that's the profile.
Part about it to me, Charlton, is they kept bringing in his late wife.
Yeah.
Well, he lost his late wife, Myra Kraft, a couple of years ago. That was a couple of years ago. He had moved on from that, Charlton.
Yeah.
Because he had a 28-year-old live-in girlfriend.
Yeah.
So he wasn't sitting around mourning his wife.
No.
And so to try to find excuses, and I understand that all the networks, Charlton, are in partnership with the professional leagues.
Yeah.
So they have to put on kid gloves when they're handling these situations.
Yep.
With an owner. But not let that be a player, Charlton.
Yeah.
And look at the vitriol that they throw towards a player. If you catch a player in a prostitution ring, Charlton, it's all over the place.
Oh, big.
I can go back a few years when Vince Young got into a fight in a strip joint down in Texas, Charlton.
Yeah.
And that was big news. I mean, they kept showing that over and over. They had the tape for that, Charlton.
Yeah.
They had the tape for Kareem Hunt. They had his tape.
Yeah.
They had Ray Rice's tape, Charlton. It's amazing that the broadcast network can get the tape of a player that they have on videotape. That's easily accessible.
Yeah.
But you have an owner doing an egregious act, Charlton, on videotape. You can't get accessibility to that, though.
Yeah.
Think about how the pendulum sways, Charlton.
Yeah.
That a player, he's expendable. An owner, he's a billionaire.
Yeah.
He allows me to work.
Well, when you bring that up, you just brought my mind to something. There are several men in media, black and white. I've known many white guys to get in trouble for, sexual harassment charges. They're fired from one station, and they show up on other networks, and people know who they are. I've seen that happen to some African American men, and not many get invited back to the mainstream media. And the thing with Kraft, we know that happened. So how is sexual harassment more egregious? I mean, sexual harassment, maybe they touched somebody in the wrong place, or maybe they said an inappropriate thing to the wrong woman. Now, how is that more egregious than someone paying for women who are entrapped? Mixie, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's not. But the guy who's paying for that woman that's in entrapment, Charlton, is a billionaire.
Yeah.
And that billionaire is part of the reason why you work for that network.
Yeah.
You're in partnership with them. He's technically your boss. If you want to be realistic about it, those NFL team owners, Charlton, are the bosses of everybody who's doing a broadcast.
Yeah.
On television. Whether it's in a highlight show, whether it's a live broadcast of a game.
Yeah.
If you go and attack an owner, Charlton, in a broadcast,
yep,
you won't be working that next week. Maybe not tomorrow.
Okay, so
that's how it is.
So why?
And so they get the special treatment, preference. They get the skin privilege, Charlton, because all these owners are white.
Yes.
So they get that skin privilege. You look at all the players, Charlton, that's been blasted on the airwaves.
Yeah.
They've all been black.
Yeah.
They've all been black. And I want to bring up Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
One more time here.
Yeah.
Because when Colin Kaepernick took a knee for social injustice, okay?
Yeah.
About the unfair treatment of Americans, of human beings.
Yeah.
You don't think that those Special Olympic kids, Charlton, are included in that?
Wow.
Those Special Olympic adults? You think about the unfair treatment. And here's the president talking about fire the SOBs, get them out of the country.
Yeah.
Here's Betsy DeVos saying we're not going to fund special needs people, Charlton.
Yep.
Because that's social injustice, Charlton.
Yeah.
These are social programs by the government.
Wow.
Special Olympics is a funded social program for needy people, Charlton.
Yeah.
Colin Kaepernick, you can keep bringing Colin Kaepernick back in everything.
Yeah.
If people want to hear him go away, every time something negative in sports is brought up,
yes,
Colin Kaepernick is a part of that. And this Special Olympics by Betsy DeVos talking about defunding the Special Olympics, that's part of what Colin Kaepernick took a knee for also, Charles.
Let me ask you to draw this parallel, because I'm not sure. I'm just asking the question because someone asked me and I didn't know the answer. When a professional broadcaster loses his job over a sexual assault allegation, or sometimes it's just flirtation, sometimes it's inappropriate behavior. It could be doing what POTUS said he does to women, grabs them by the private parts. And for a lot of these athletes, and some are Hall of Famers, they're not on the air anymore. They're not at all. They were not caught for soliciting prostitution. They were just accused of harassment, which could be that you maybe grab someone or pat someone on the backside the way a lot of athletes do after they make a good shot. I'm not being flippant. I'm just saying, why is that these guys who are accused of just an allegation of trying to do something, maybe date someone they work with, which is dumb, they'll lose a job, Big C. But a man who's been caught solicitation, they're fighting for him not only to keep his team and not even to face any punishment, but maybe he has more money to buy the better lawyers. Does that make any sense? Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, everybody's driven a car in their lifetime, Dalton, that's listened to a radio generally.
Yeah.
When you tune up a car, you got 8 cylinders generally on a car.
Yeah.
And most of those cylinders have at least one spark plug in them. Depending on the car, some of them have 2 spark plugs in a cylinder.
Yeah.
When the car is not running smooth, Charlton, what do? You replace those spark plugs.
Yep.
But you keep the car. All you do is replace the spark plug.
Yeah.
So think of the owner as the car, okay?
Yeah.
An NFL owner is the car. The spark plugs are those broadcasters.
Yeah.
When they get a little tarnished, they're not running as smoothly, Charlton, you take one out, put a new one in.
Yes.
That's what happens in the recycling of broadcasting, Charlton.
That's interesting.
It's easier to replace the spark plugs than it is the whole car. Think of an owner as a luxury automobile, Charlton.
Yeah.
You take it in for a tune-up, the thing you replace are the spark plugs. Those spark plugs are the broadcasters because they're delivering a message to that cylinder to fire, okay?
Yeah.
And if that message is not what you want, you replace that spark plug. That's the same thing with on-air broadcasters, whether it's radio, television, Charlton, even in print. They are replaced, but you don't replace the vehicle.
Big C, leave it to my southern friend, Big C, to use the metaphor of a changing spark plugs as replacing people. Very well said from my friend who loved Dukes of Hazzard and Smoking the Bandit. Those good old boys. Make sure your thoughts.
Yes, they had them high-running vehicles, Dalton, and had me in tip-top performance. So they had nice spark plugs.
So that's a very good analogy. When you think about the NFL, they talking about changes. The NFL has changed the rule for this season that offensive pass interference and defensive pass interference, that it can be reviewed even if there's no flag. Now, I think that's anathema to betting, because betting relies on people doing wrong and not being caught. They're trying to say if they want to make everything perfect, that's also going to put a dent in betting, which puts a dent in the game. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I think Rob Gronkowski will come back out of retirement, Charlton, after this rule change.
Yeah.
Because you can't touch the big guys anymore. You think about the most valuable weapons now in the NFL, Charlton, will become the tight ends. Because of that size differential between the defensive back. Think about a huge receiver like Julio Jones of the Falcons. How much he gets beat up on for defensive backs trying to climb over him and knock down a pass. Think about Megatron when he was playing with Detroit, Charlton. He was beat up on every play. I mean, you could have thrown a flag on every route that he ran. So when you're looking at receivers now in the NFL, Charlton, that stand 6'4" and up, those will become primary targets. And think about, if you really want to get a pass interference, Charlton, just go into a Hail Mary play. Because there's always going to be a push-off on a Hail Mary play, Charlton. So why punt? Just throw the ball late, in the first half or at the end of the game. You don't have to punt the ball. So this is going to be a real interesting scenario on how this plays out, Charlton, because in the last 2 minutes of the half and the game, the review will come from upstairs, from the box. So I see coaches all the time. Let's load it up on one side and go deep. Let's put trips on one side and throw the ball. Let our guys go up. And if a defensive back comes in and pushes in, Charlton, we get the ball right there. That's what's going to happen with this. The NFL really did not do an in-depth study. And they named this the Sean Payton rule, okay? But I didn't hear the New Orleans Saints fans crying, Charlton, when they knocked Brett Favre and the Minnesota Vikings out of the playoffs when they had Bountygate.
This dude was punished.
That was fine.
He was fine for the league himself.
All these late hits, and Sean Payton was suspended for a year. Mickey Loomis, the GM, was suspended. The defensive coordinator was suspended for a year. Jonathan Velma was suspended, the middle linebacker. So there was a whole wealth of them, and nobody from the New Orleans Saints was crying because they won the Super Bowl. Off of dirty tactics, Charlton.
So
it's whatever fits you at the moment. So I see this rule, I question it. I don't know if the NFL really understands what they just did in this situation, Charlton. Because they're going to take punting out of the game late, Charlton. Nobody's going to punt for field position. You're just going to throw it deep for field position.
Well, why was Sean Payton passing the ball anyway when they needed to run the ball, kick a field goal? They would have been in the Super Bowl. Betting's been legalized last year. There was $10 billion bet worldwide, $10 billion. And people say, why would a coach who's already been suspended from the league throw the ball inside the red zone when he has a good kicker who was kicking him from 45 yards in, and he didn't trust him for a 30-yard kick with inside a minute of the game or 2 minutes of the game? No, he's the reason they lost that game. It had nothing to do with the bad call. Never should have been a call because it never should have been a pass. When you think about NFL, this Cliff Kingsbury, he's changing protocol in the NFL. He said that he will allow his players, we told you prop betting is big, Big C, right? He's going to allow his players to make cell phone calls, I guess, every 20 to 30 minutes because his players are sometimes losing focus. Could they be losing focus because they wonder if they should get out and get that prop bet in on time, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this is going to be throughout the week, when you have meetings. You think about the NFL is a full-time job. And so, it's been studies that have proven that people can't keep attention span, Charlton, more than 20 to 30 minutes. They lose focus.
More like 10 minutes.
I mean, this is scientifically proven, Charlton. And so when you think about these grown men sitting in these rooms, Charlton, and you all of a sudden, you're a guy and you got a teammate that's been cut, and he's always like your girlfriend, not your wife, but your girlfriend. And you worried about where she is now that he's cut and he got free time. So, I mean, but if you look at the modern player, Charlton, they've grown up in social media, okay? The average human being, Charlton, is no more than 30 minutes away from their phone, checking it at any time.
Yep.
And you can be in a meeting, Charlton, and you were probably in something today, and people were
30 minutes, more like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
3 minutes.
And so, if a player's always worried about what's going on,
yeah.
I mean, and everybody has their cell phone, so to keep the player more attentive, Charlton, you allow them those brief breaks to check in, whether they have family, whether they have children, a side piece and their side piece,
Hey, who knows, Mama
You want to make sure that you keep that player happy. And I mean, it goes back to that analogy, happy wife, happy home, Charlton.
Yeah.
So if you got a happy player, you get a better performance.
Well,
so that's what Cliff Kingsbury, and you think about it, he's not an old coach, Charlton.
No.
I mean, here's a guy that's in his mid-30s. He's got a head coaching job.
Uh-huh.
He's got a head coaching job, really, Charlton, after being fired. So he wants to come in and see if his experiments work. Because if it does, Charlton, then everybody's going to do it. But we don't know what other coaches have allowed their players to check their social messages, Charlton, or personal messages during meeting time.
Well, I know a guy that was checking his message. In fact, I disagree with that study every 30 minutes. I know people that take the cell phone to the bathroom because they don't want to miss that text that comes through, and that's always interesting how technology is making us all dependent on artificial intelligence. I know someone that was checking his cell phone probably every 3 minutes. L.A. Chargers quarterback Philip Rivers and his wife, they welcomed their 9th child today. Congratulations to him and having another 9 kids. What is he taking to keep his
Philippine on the cell phone? I can tell you that.
Yeah, he's not taking his cell phone
all the time. You got 9 kids. The phone call is the last thing that you make.
Yeah, that might be a good endorsement for putting that cell phone down. No one needs those doctors to give you artificial insemination. Just put that cell phone down, Big C. Congratulations, Philip Rivers and his wife. Big C, 24 NFL quarterbacks that were drafted in the first round. Now, this is since the year 2000. Would you believe they're no longer in the NFL? They were first rounders, Big C. Your thoughts?
First round draft picks. Did you call your buddies Todd McShay and Mel Kiper about this, Charlton?
No, I didn't call them.
Because I believe those 24 quarterbacks that are no longer in the NFL were slated franchise quarterbacks, Charlton.
Yeah.
First round, number 1 draft picks. They could build a franchise around.
Yeah.
So you think about that. 24 quarterbacks, Charlton, that's been drafted in the last 19 years are no longer in the NFL.
Yeah.
And all of these guys are supposed to be franchise quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So when you have all this hoopla every year about the next quarterback that's going to get the team over the hump and get them into the Super Bowl, Charlton, where are they?
Yeah.
That if you can't keep 24 quarterbacks drafted, and really the past 18, because the 19th year haven't come in, Charlton.
Yeah.
24. So you're losing a quarterback and a half a year, Charlton, out of that in attrition rate. There were first-round guaranteed franchise quarterbacks going to get you to the Super Bowl, as Todd McShay and Mel Kiper's been saying, and even the genius in Oakland now, their GM, Mike Mayock.
Yeah, Mike Mayock, yeah.
He's an expert.
Yeah.
And John Gruden was running the quarterback camps for 10 years. So all these guys, Charlton, that all of those people said, and by the way, they're all white, aren't they?
It seems like it is, and I'm telling you.
All these experts are white.
Yep.
The franchise can't miss quarterbacks. 24 of them are doing the same thing we're doing, Charlton. Sitting around today.
Well, I tell you, and I really hope that part of what Big C Sports can do is help, close the gap with the color line, because we know if you're part of the ethnic group that makes sports a billion-dollar industry, why can't you find work after your playing days are over? We got to change that. Like my mortgage banker friend, one of the top mortgage companies in the United States of America, several $billion in loans they closed. A lot of money. But he, as an older white guy, said this business is too white. We need more people of color and more women. And I hope that broadcast will look at the same. I know it's a slow changing wheel, but hopefully that wheel will keep spinning. I want to say sports is a billion-dollar industry. Boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. For every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Benemark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports. Whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, your high school team, or your mom and pop soccer league, when you reach out to them, let them know that Big C sent you. Would you believe I'm going to give you a trivia question, Big C. Okay, it's a trivia question, but I'm going to make it easy, okay? On this date, it was either 1876, 1976, or 1996 that Alfonso Lonnie Clayton was born and went on to become the youngest jockey to win the Kentucky Derby. And he was only 15 years old. He was an African-American. Big Z, your thoughts?
Well, let me say 1876.
You win, what about you win, Big Z.
You know, and when you think about that, Charlton, these are the things we don't hear about the great Kentucky Derby winners, Charlton.
No.
The youngest winner in the history of the greatest horse race in America was a young African-American, only 15 years of age, Charlton.
15.
And you never hear about him on Derby Day, Charlton. They never mention that.
No.
They want to let you think that no African-American jockeys have ever won the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah.
And they will always say the winningest jockey in Derby history. No, the winningest jockey in Derby history was a black man, Charlton, won 26 times.
Yep.
In the early 1900s. 26 times.
26.
But you never hear that when the Kentucky Derby is run.
No, you don't. You know, in fact, he won more times than the Yankees won World Series. And we always hear about the Yankees being the greatest organization in baseball. It takes 9 men at a time on the field when you're on defense at least. But when you're a single person, there's only one person on the horse, and he has 26 times that he won, and no one knows about it. I mean, that's why Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe. You'll probably hear about it more coming up on this year's Kentucky Derby. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they might peek it in, you know, in a backdoor compliment.
Yeah.
But, you know, the thing about it that the Kentucky Derby has become so white. But you got to realize, Charlton, when the Kentucky Derby was being run originally, it was black jockeys.
Yeah.
They were the same. That's the reason why you hear the term cowboys, Charlton.
Yeah.
Because it was black saddle broncs, Charlton, who broke the horses and drove the cows across the plains in America. That's the terminology cowboy, because they called blacks boys. There was no white boys out there rustling these cattle, Charlton. They were black men.
Yep.
They set the stage for the American frontier, and then they were omitted from the history books, Charlton.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of that happen. That's why it's important just to know those things, and people can always Google everything we say. We're the only sports program in the universe that will say Google what we say or don't believe it. No one else is going to say that to you. Think about how people are given opportunity. Go to college basketball. LSU interim coach Tony Benford, he now finds himself in rare territory, Big C. The only other interim coach to take a program this far in the NCAA tournament was Michigan. Remember Coach Steve Fisher? He led the Wolverines to the national championship in 1989. Now you have Tony Benford, LSU, doing the same, at least on the same road. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, that team was led by Glenn Rice in 1989, Charlton, to a miraculous run for the Wolverines to win the national title. Now we look at Benford, Charlton, after Will Wade had been suspended, Charlton, on this recruiting scandal. Benford, an African-American, taking over. And he's the only African-American coach, Charlton, left in the tournament. So you think about how ironic that would be if Benford was to take the LSU Tigers on and, you know, cut down the Nets, Charlton, in Minneapolis. In winning the national championship. An African-American as an interim coach, Charlton. But will he ever be considered for a head coaching job?
Well, he should. In the fact that they're doing better now in the tournament than they were with their, you know, head coach. I can't knock the head coach, got him there, but he had some scandal. But to have him coming on, and I know Alabama, they hired another coach to fulfill their coaching vacancy. And
the coach from Buffalo, Oates.
Did Buffalo get someone too, Big C?
No, Oates was the Buffalo coach, and he was hired by Alabama.
Okay, to take over for Avery Johnson. And so that, it just shows you that there's enough opportunity out there. But if you're a person of color, I would really want to know if the African-American, you know, athletes or even assistant coaches can write letters to the administration. And that's why there's such a lack of opportunity for African-American men when they go out and they start recruiting the profile. And the profile of the kids they want to get to recruit for the kids that can play in March Madness, they're looking for black men. Why can't they also take a job application on the recruiting trail? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's amazing that black assistant coaches are thought so lowly of, Charlton, by administrations and athletic directors. Not getting the opportunity to fulfill, and we talked about it many times, Charlton, over 75 openings in major college basketball here in the United States for the 2019 season. And yet no African American has been hired thus far for any of those openings. There have been a couple of white coaches already hired, Charlton.
Yeah.
But no African Americans are being considered yet.
Yeah, we gotta fix that. It's just like a conversation I had with you, several years ago about what it was like in broadcast. And I'll never forget, after your playing days, they had you send them a tape. But you had to be doing the work to get the job. But you got the chance, and that's all you asked for was the opportunity. And I hope that many other broadcast platforms treat black men if they make you $1 billion collectively, why would you not look at them to give them that same opportunity to find work in the press box or the sideline? Mainstream's not making you $1 billion a year playing sports, football, basketball, track and field, baseball. But at the same time, we need that. Big C, Colin Cowherd, I like his work, some of his work. He's a good broadcaster, but he can't do a show by himself. He always has, and I'm not knocking the man, it's just you are what you are. But they'll put Colin Cowherd on a platform, and they will put athlete after athlete after athlete as his guest. So most of them are black. So even he will use black men to help him carry his content, but he's the one making the money. Colin Cowherd at Fox Sports, he has to try to fill a lot of time on his show. And a lot of time it's just blowing hot air. He's saying that Zion Williamson is already one of the top 20 players in the NBA. And if we look at the top few players, he can't match up with some of the players who are stars right now. But give me your thoughts on what I just said. It's just my opinion. You and I don't have 15 guys a week coming across the platform helping us fill time, but the white guys do. Now, I want to ask you why they have to do that. Your thoughts, Big C.
Well, Charlton, you have to do that. What you're doing is seeing that the guys in the NBA are not as good as what we think they are. They shouldn't be earning the money that they earn. They shouldn't be commanding the broadcast networks like they do, Charlton. And you're saying that Zion Williams, because he's a folklore on the college level, Charlton, that he's better than all the great basketball players in the NBA, Charlton. I mean, if you just started with a list and you look at LeBron James, James Harden, Paul George, Russell Westbrook, Chris Paul, Charlton, Kyrie Irving, Karl Anthony Towns, Giannis, Anthony Davis, Blake Griffin. I mean, you think about those players, Charlton. We're talking about potential Hall of Famers in that group of players, Charlton, that I just mentioned. They're all stars. Several of them have been in championship games, Charlton. Yeah. And here's a guy who's never raised the nets in a college championship game, Charlton. He's never won a championship title in the college level. No. And you're already anointing him as the greatest player in the NBA today? Yeah, you can't do that. And again, all of these players, when they retire, the ones that don't get an opportunity to do their own show, and maybe they don't want to, they have, several $100 million in the bank, but there will be these guys on this list, I'm telling you, the programs all over the country, they won't offer these men their own show, but they'll have them sit on the side. Remember how Johnny Carson back in the day, and then Dave Letterman, they would sit behind the desk and they would have their guests come and sit on that sofa on the side. Well, a lot of what the broadcast companies have done now is they don't have one-on-one interviews like, the great Bryant Gumbel would do. They'll sit a commentator down, an interviewer, mostly Caucasian men, and many times never played the sport, and they will fill that show with talented black men that they won't give a show to. And I think that's stealing, Big C. I know they pay them some money, but they don't give them a show, but they steal the knowledge. Your thoughts? Well, it's amazing that you can bring in former African-American athletes, Charlton, to do your narratives all the time. And regardless of which broadcast network it is, Charlton, they all do that. Yeah. But they will not afford these athletes shows on their own. They always have to be the sidekick on a show. And that's what I find the most appalling, is that they can carry your broadcast, but you can't name the show after them. And I mean, all the major networks do this, Charlton, that have these talk shows. You have to be normally a white guy, Charlton, who's sitting out there, and you're the mainstay of the show. The show is named after you. Yeah. And we're going to bring in all these former black athletes to perpetuate your show and to make you seem more intelligent than what you are. Yeah. Because you're going to pose a question to them, and they're going to fill in all the blanks. They're going to do the essay for you.
Yeah.
And yet you're going to receive the grade.
They receive the grade. And you think about that, you'll see some of those men, if those shows are still around in the next decade, you'll see them. I would also look maybe the second 10, DeMar DeRozan, Damian Lillard, love him out of Oakland, California, Kawhi Leonard. Joel Embiid is amazing. Victor Oladipo, Kemba Walker, Steph Curry. Could you imagine the Curry family when they're sitting around the holidays? When you say pass the gravy, I'm sure they try jump shots with biscuits. I know the mother doesn't like peanut after Thanksgiving. You can look at Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson. You look at, Jokic. Those guys also, Williamson can't compete with those guys right now. He has to finish up March Madness first and become the MVP of March Madness before you say that he could be one of the best if he were to play in the NBA. Now, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, you're naming off a plethora of all-stars, guys that have proven it on the NBA hardwood night after night, season after season.
Yeah.
And, I love Zion Williamson as an athlete, as a person, as an individual.
Yes.
And I want to see him on that big stage of the NBA, and I want to see him doing well. But Charlton, we even have rookies in the NBA right now that are playing outstanding basketball.
Yeah.
And Zion has not dribbled one time on an NBA court, and he has yet to prove that he can outplay the rookies that are in the NBA, Charlton.
Yeah, and last I checked, I mean, he's a good player, and I love the fact that he's getting a lot of praise, and I hope that he's not exploited like a lot of other people have. I hope he signs with a good agent and maybe sign with an agent that knows LeBron James. I'm not steering you, but there's a lot of times in order to create opportunity, you got to go out and seek it because you're going to be preyed on. You know how you have some barbecue sitting out in the backyard? Flies tend to come around like sports agents. You swat a lot of them away. Hopefully Zion Williamson can align himself with somebody and interview the man and ask for references. Who have you managed money for in the past? Who have you helped in the past? And interview those guys and see if the guy coming after you is like a fly after your barbecue or just trying to get some money. And just to throw in a couple of more players that could be, I think, excellent, that maybe Zion is not at their level. You look at LaMarcus Aldridge. De'Aaron Fox, I think, is amazing. Going to be a star player next couple of years. Sean Collins, Ben Simmons. A lot of people think he's one of the best players that we'll see in the next decade. Andre Drummond. Devin Booker's wasting his time down there in Phoenix, Big C. Bradley Beal, Jimmy Butler, Zach LaVine, Donovan Mitchell. So you can't say that Zion Williamson could compete over these players right now. Duke is not an undefeated college team, and I believe NBA players, they play against NBA competition every night. Big C, your thoughts?
Every night, Charlton, all five guys in every starting lineup is an NBA player. Yet you're not going to find that on every roster of these college teams that Duke has had to compete against.
No.
As a matter of fact, Duke has lost several games. This last game that they had to play against Central Florida, Charlton, they were pushed to the limits, and they were aided by the officials. A lot of people thought in that game, Charlton, Taco foul, the big center for Central Florida fouling out of the game without even making a move. So, you have to wonder, if you're only scoring 70-plus points, Charlton, against college kids, you got to get into an NBA game, Charlton, where you got to be in triple digits normally to win a game.
Yeah. I think he'll play against grown men. And again, we wish the young man the best. But, dominate college first. That means you cut down the nets. Tonight's NBA action is not very broad. You have Portland at Chicago. And I really feel painful, for that young man that broke a leg. And, with medical science, who knows if he'll come back. But he'll probably be away for at least a year, Big C. Golden State is at Memphis. I'm telling you, this game's already underway. Golden State should win this game, but Memphis is a trap place. I don't know if it's barbecue, but they're knocking off teams like swatting flies. And Golden State got to have their head on because they're in a tie right now with Denver. You have Indiana at Oklahoma City. That's the playoff game tonight. Playoff atmosphere, Eastern Conference, Western Conference. Give me your thoughts on those two teams before we close out. Indiana at OKC, and then Golden State, they cannot get caught slipping, or as you would say to the good old boys down south, sipping down in the great city of Memphis. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I think OKC is the more worried team, Charlton. They haven't been playing consistently in the past week and a half. They've had their ups and downs. They've been knocked off a couple of times by teams that you in the past you'd have thought that they'd just run through.
Yeah.
Golden State, it's one of those teams, Charlton, that's an enigma at this moment. You know, they can hit that on and off switch when they can, and they tend to play better on the road than what they do at home. If you look at all their blowout losses, Charlton, they've come at Oracle Arena at home this year.
Yeah.
But on the road, they've been a more dominant team.
Yeah, and as a good friend told me that they got to make sure they get the bridge funding to finish the Chase Center. Now, just because a man is rich, it doesn't mean he's going to spend his own money. I think it's called OPM, other people's money. Who is that guy that sang about it, down with other people's money? I think it's down with OPM. I think that's what it was. I might be wrong, so Big C. So hopefully, when games go awry like that and you get blown out by Dallas and Dallas gets beaten by Sacramento, it makes you start listening. Maybe my guys in Vegas know something. You have Washington at Phoenix, and then you have the LA Lakers at Utah. Now, I saw something last night. The Lakers were playing Washington. For the first time that I can recall, on the front of their jersey, Big C, it said the District of Columbia, which is what Washington, D.C. is. I thought that was a great look for that franchise, and I know everybody has 19 jerseys nowadays. I just want to get your thoughts, if you like that, your thoughts.
Well, Charlton, you know, the NBA is a marketing moniker now, Charlton. It's everybody's coming in with sponsorship and trying to get their logo.
We're having a hard time with your microphone, Big C. I want to make sure we clear that up. Go right ahead, sir.
Well, the NBA is a marketing moniker now, Charlton, where everybody's getting their logo on the jerseys, and the NBA is going out there dipping into the pockets of corporate America.
Yeah.
And with the Wizards, Charlton, you know, I wish they wouldn't have changed their name, and you know, because of. They said it was because of the violence, you know, what they used to have back in that D.C. area, and it went from the name of the Bullets, which they had won an NBA title, Charlton.
Yeah.
If they were going to change the name, they should have just moved them out of the area completely.
Yeah. Changing the name doesn't change the violence around the city. They need more other issues for a social cause. And then I want to get your thoughts on the last NBA game tonight. I saw the Lakers play last night against Washington, and LeBron had a solid game. And there was a Caron Butler asked him a question, and he left a tease about something with his school back in Ohio, and they're going to be revealing the news soon. Now, I just wonder if Betsy DeVos is going to match what LeBron James has done for inner city, underprivileged youth, Big C. And I don't know what it is, but I'm sure it's going to be a grand announcement. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you know, it's amazing that athletes have to carry the moniker for education in America, that we have a Secretary of Education who's saying that funding is not what's needed for education, and we should go into a lottery system for schools. And what that does, Charlton, it devoids the children of public schools the right to have an equal education.
Yeah.
But LeBron James is doing all he can for his hometown state, Charlton, in the education system.
Yep. And I'm proud of LeBron James just for being the man that he is. Your thoughts, Lakers at Utah. You know, we know the altitude's pretty high. Utah is a playoff team. Lakers are not. Is that a game? And I even heard LeBron James said that as far as playing, you know, out the regular season, that'll be determined by coaching staff, etc. Does he make that trip, you know, into Utah? And if he does he play more than 30 minutes? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, LeBron James is going to play his heart out when he's on the court, Charlton. You know, everybody's questioning LeBron all year long about his professionalism and attitude and demeanor, Charlton.
Yeah.
He goes out to win. LeBron James doesn't take nights off. You have to question his teammates. But that's the callousness of the media, Charlton, is that they won't question the guys that surround LeBron James about why can't they pick up their level of intensity. If he can go out and knock down a triple-double, why can't any of them at least get a double-double, Charlton?
Yep. So hopefully, no matter whether he plays out the regular season or not, every game he plays, he's climbing higher on that scoring leaderboard that the great Kareem leads everybody by, Big C. I want to finish off today's programming and talking about just why it's so important that we tell young people when you think about what LeBron, and it's a tease, Big C, because he didn't, and I love what Caron Butler did, and I know a lot of people hate the players-only broadcast, a lot of mainstream guys. Well, why are they going to have players-only broadcast? Have they ever considered that many of our broadcast networks are white-only? And I even asked my white brethren in media, like my friend who's a white guy in his late 60s, owns one of the largest mortgage brokers in the United States of America, and he said that our business is too white, we need more people of color and more women. He said it. And he's a multi-millionaire. He didn't have to say it, but he said it. Hopefully the networks will start doing the same thing. College football. The BCS era began in 1998. The great Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Big Ben Roethlisberger, who doesn't seem to have many friends on his side, Eli Manning, Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, Donovan McNabb. Remember how great he was back at Syracuse. Joe Flacco and Jared Goff. Think about that and how that era has made football, I think, more exciting. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you name those men, Charlton, of the BCS era, you left out one. That was Rex Grossman. Of all those quarterbacks, Charlton, those are the only ones that have gone to a Super Bowl. When you named a list earlier, Charlton, of quarterbacks that are no longer in the NFL since the year 2000.
Yeah.
This since the BCS era began, Charlton, in 1998. That only those quarterbacks that you named, Charlton, have made it to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And you know, I keep referring to your friends Mel Kiper and Todd McShay, Charlton, these experts, and even the Oakland Raider GM right now that they have, Mike Mayock.
Yeah.
All these guys are talking about these can't-miss quarterbacks.
Yeah.
1998, that's 21 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that, Big B.
About 21 years ago, Charlton.
Yeah.
That only 10 quarterbacks in the last 21 years that have been drafted have made it to the Super Bowl. This is all rounds, not just the first round, Charlton.
Yeah.
Of all rounds, in 21 years, Charlton, 10 quarterbacks have made it to the Super Bowl. So of all those people sitting out there saying, you got to draft this franchise quarterback in the first round, you got to take this guy, he can't miss, you know, he's going to get you there, you can build around him.
Yeah.
Think about it, Charlton. There's a lot of guys that are sitting in buildings that nobody's building around anymore.
Nobody's building around. But, you know, even when you look at players that have been part of that era, the BCS era, I wonder how many will actually be on the Hall of Fame ballot. We know, you know, Peyton, Hall of Famer, Aaron Rodgers, Hall of Famer, Big Ben, Hall of Famer. I don't know if Eli, but he has 2 Super Bowl championships.
He'll get it because he has 2 Super Bowl championships, and he has a name on the back of his jersey.
Yeah,
that'll get him in.
They got to have him with his brother. Now, when you look at Matt Ryan, no Super Bowl championships, but a league MVP. Cam Newton, no Super Bowl championships, but a Super Bowl appearance in a league MVP. Donovan McNabb, been to the Super Bowl. Joe Flacco, Super Bowl championship. Golf, you know, been to the Super Bowl. So of the guys that may not get into the Hall, I mean, it's still Jim Plunkett not in the Hall of Fame. He has 2 Super Bowls, Big C. So Eli, there's no guarantee, but I think he'll get better treatment.
He's also Mexican American, Charles.
Well, that's a very good point. Maybe Plunkett's stuck behind that wall, but which ones will have a hard time getting in first ballot, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, all of them, Charlton, will have a hard time getting in first ballot. I mean, Ben has the wins. Eli has the wins. It would be hard for me to put him in on the first ballot, Charlton. I can see them all be second ballot. Because when you think of players like Terrell Owens, Randy Moss, they weren't first ballot Hall of Famers, Charlton. There's plenty of players, Charlton, that have not been first ballot Hall of Famers that have Super Bowls.
Yeah.
But, you know, Manning will get there because of his name. All of those quarterbacks, Charlton, Flacco won't get there because he only has the 1 win and he has a subpar career other than that.
Yeah.
You know, he hasn't done anything in a repeat form. But, you know, as you look at those quarterbacks, Charlton, and we want to sit there and say who's the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, it all comes down to what somebody's thoughts are.
Yep.
And when you talk about that BCS era, Charlton, all that began the year after Tom Brady had entered the NFL.
Yeah.
You think about that. It ended after he entered the NFL. All of those guys who've come and gone, and we talk about the number of quarterbacks that have been in the Super Bowl since then, Charlton.
Yeah.
He's the only mainstay.
Yeah. The one that's still doing his thing. And so it's not based on where you draft. It's about how you line up. It's just ironic that Bob Kraft is the owner of maybe the NFL's best or less highly decorated quarterback in Tom Brady. We know many of those Super Bowl championships came because they had a great kicker. I want to close out today's show. I saw something that my son brought to my attention. And sometimes if you get used to seeing something, you know, you don't mind. Like if flies are flying around in your house, if you don't have a fly swatter, you kind of get used to it. But my boy brought it up to me. Why does soda commercials, you know, Sprite is one of them, whenever they put black kids in their commercial, they have them, you know, dancing around and they got the music was just fine. But to make them jump around and dance, it's like soda's going to make them dance as opposed to having conversation. I contrast that to Mean Joe Green, played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Hall of Famer. That commercial that he gave the kid his jersey, and the kid gave Mean Joe Green his Coca-Cola. They didn't have the white boy jumping around. They didn't have him jumping around, dancing, shucking, and driving. He just said, wow, thanks, Mean Joe. But there was no dancing. So to young boys, black boys that are asking me why, if I'm going to be in a commercial, they're going to make me dance like I drink and dance at the same time. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you think about Sprite is more of a bubbly sensation. When you think about the origin of Coca-Cola, it was originally brewed with cocaine in it, Charlton.
Yeah.
So it was a more subdued background when you look at that. When you look at Sprite has been the alter 7-Up.
Yeah.
It was 7-Up's alter ego.
Yeah.
And when you think about 7-Up, years ago, Charlton, Garfield Holder was the spokesperson for 7-Up. And it was always this cool, refreshing, taste of lime and citrus.
Yeah.
And so when Sprite came out to counter that, Charlton, they wanted to have a more up-tempo to go along with that, the more younger hip generation versus where 7-Up was, where the older, subdued, mixed cocktail drink generation.
Well, that's interesting, but it was brought to my attention that more young white kids buy the hip-hop music, but when they put them in a show, commercial drinking sodas, they don't make them jumping around dancing, and I just thought that was an interesting statement that was made by my boy Big C. Back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always say to Ali, with all you've got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men, rumble. Big C. What are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, tomorrow night the basketballs are back on the hardwood in the Sweet 16, Charlton, in the NCAA men's tournament. Also, the swing of bats on the diamond. And tomorrow afternoon, Charlton, Major League Baseball officially kicks off for real.
Well, we love the sports universe. We love all the people who are trying to make it, whether it's Special Olympics or anyone trying to make Title IX, whatever it is. We hope that it's all fair in the sports universe. And you can find out every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, as we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911. Because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. As we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.